Wild 1, and I have another unboxing to do. There have been, oh geez, a ton of unboxing videos for this, but I decided to do one anyway. I got my copy from Noble Knight Games. I will leave a link to their website in the description of the video. They are kind of my go-to for games that are hard to find, either out of print or just, you know, really difficult to track down. They have like, what, over 30,000, maybe 40,000 games in their listing. And a particular example is I was looking for Runebound 2nd Edition after it was out of print, and it was really hard to locate a brand new copy, a shrink-wrapped one. I couldn't, and I kind of gave up. And then I found that Noble Knight Games had out-of-print copies of the game, but they were in a used condition. But in this case, it was in near mint condition. They packaged it, delivered it to me, and when I opened the box, I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that the game was in pristine condition. The cards were in great shape. There was nothing wrong with them. You couldn't tell any difference. The board looked perfect. And they had even included a Plano box with all of the tokens from the original punch sheets sorted and ready to go. So hats off to them for doing that. That was really great. There was nothing wrong with anything. It was perfect. Everything was there. So I was trying to track down Scythe, which has basically been the most hyped game of 2016. And I was debating whether to just get the retail version and wait for the add-ons to be available again, or just go ahead and spring for the big one. So I chose to spring for the big one. Now this is not just the regular collector's edition, this is the Art Connoisseur edition. Assuming they got this right. I'm going to find out very shortly. I hate using knives. I really do, but they're definitely a little easier than, at least for this part of opening. Once this is done, let's open this up. Interesting packing material. Instead of styrofoam peanuts, just lots and lots of crumpled up paper. Oh, it's like unwrapping a birthday gift. Ta-da! Ooh, looking beautiful. I'm going to turn this on its side so we can pull this out of here. We'll set this down. Throw all the packing material aside. This is it. This is the Connoisseur Collector's Edition of Scythe. Notice the sort of shimmery, people kind of call it lower, sort of a tin or aluminum colored embossed name, Art Connoisseur Collector's Edition. This is number 2302 of 3430. And I am about to devalue this just like driving a new car off the lot. Once you've taken it off the lot, it drops in value dramatically. Once I take the shrink wrap off, this will decrease in value substantially. If I keep it in incredibly good shape, that shouldn't matter. Eventually, you know, there will be somebody wanting to grab one of these with the original 3,430 printings of this game. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Not enough can be said about the artwork of this game. I think that's what people rave about the most, and I really, really do love the look, the artwork of this game. Look at those rogue mechs running around. Those poor workers having to deal with these mechs running around in the background all the time. So let's take the top off here. We have a couple clips. I'm not sure what these clips are for, actually. Let's find out. I know what these are. These are the little centerpieces for the power dials. And then inside here we have all of the custom resources. So the retail edition comes with plastic versions of the same resources. This one comes with custom versions. Now the metal is not in here. The metal is probably, I believe it's in another bag, which we'll get to here in a second, but the 4 resources are metal, wood, oil, and grain. But here you can actually see, look at that, the beautiful detail on that wood. A lot of care went into boxing these games. Now the grain is my favorite. Look at that. It's a bag, very beautifully painted. The oil barrels are pretty plain, but you know what do you expect? They're oil barrels. You're not going to get much out of that, but certainly they look really good. Anyway. And like I said, the metal's elsewhere. So then we have the different, for each of the 5 players, they should have their own set of, there are 5 colors, purple and green coming in expansion, but all of their meeples, their workers, their stars, their upgrade cubes, all of that stuff is in here. Their action placement pawn should be in here as well. Actually, I don't see it. I would expect it to be in there. Same with this as well. I'm sure the placement pawn is somewhere. Oh, here we go. Yeah. The supplementary pieces, which include the tokens that mostly go on the board, except for these that go on the faction board. I'm sorry, these go on the player mat. But then you have your structures in here, and then you have there's your player action token. A little heart for tracking your popularity. This little scarab-looking thing for monitoring your power. And then there's your monument structure, your mine there, your armory, and then finally your mill. So yeah, so for each of these that I pulled out of here, there should be an accompanying other set of additional miniatures that go with them. So 2 bags for each of the 5 players. So there's 2 bags for blue and red. There's a couple bags for the black. There should be a couple bags for the white. And then finally there should be a couple bags here for, I'm sorry, that was yellow. And then here's white. So a couple bags for yellow, a couple bags for white. So that's all of that. And here are the metal coins. Probably my favorite part. The thing I was most looking forward to. This wrap is really tight. I'm going to have to use a pair of scissors to cut this bag open. So we'll slice across here. And here are all the coins in their individual packaging. I'm not going to take all these out. I'm just going to show you the different denominations. So here are the ones. Very beautiful. There are the 3s, which look kind of like our pennies. Lovely artwork. Beautiful design. These are very heavy. And you have your 5s here. back has a star on it with 5. You have your 10s. There's the 10 up on the top here. Can't really see the other side without opening it up, but here are the 20s. Beautiful, look at that. And there's the other side of the 20. Each one has a different sort of, graphic on the back side of it. And then a name of some nation state that either still exists or fell. The story is set in the 1920s. It's in an alternative version of the 1920s where World War I was sort of a steampunk war where these great mechanical war machines were constructed, and the original manufacturer of those war machines fell, and all that's left of them is a factory at the center of the board. And these 5 nation states are sort of converging to acquire what they can from the factory and also to build enough wealth to win the game. So here are the encounter cards. Each encounter card gives you 3 choices, of which you may only choose one, unless of course you are the I can't remember which one of the nation states allows you to pick 2. I apologize for the reflection. I wasn't really expecting to see that, but you basically can see the camera. There's lovely artwork on every one of these encounter cards. And here are the factory cards, and I believe some quick reference cards. So like here's one on combat and aggressive movement, and then here is one of the factory cards. So you put you basically randomly draw from the factory cards deck the number of factory cards equal to the number of players plus 1, and then as a player reaches the factory with their character pawn, they can take one of these cards, and it adds an extra section to their player mat. These are the objective cards. Completing an objective earns you a star. Each player, depending on which mat or I believe faction, we'll see here in a moment, I can't remember, gets a certain number of those, but can only complete 1 unless there's a specific one that can do more than 1. Here are the combat cards. They're numbered 2 through 5, and these are the amount of power that you can add to the power that you select secretly on your power dial. Here are the power dials. The retail version comes with only 2, and you really only ever need 2 because, for the most part, only 2 factions are fighting each other at any given time. But with this version, you get a faction dial for every faction, for all 5 factions. So you can actually assign a dial to each of the 5 factions. And here's the metal, so there are the metal pieces. The metal pieces did not come in a Ziploc bag, and they are extremely heavy. Little ingot-shaped metal pieces made of metal. Very heavy. Here are our faction mats. I should have 5 of them for each of our factions. So here's Zara and Kar from the Crimean Khanate. Here we have Bjorn and Mox. Mox is his big oxen there. He's from the Nordic kingdoms. Here we have Olga and Chenga from the Soviet Union. Olga has a tiger named Chenga. Here we have Anna, and I will butcher that name because I cannot speak Slavic languages or Polish. I'm afraid to even try to say that. but it's from the Republic of Polonia, and of course it's a bear. Every one of them has their own little pet that comes with them. And then we have Gunther, Nacht and Tag. Well, I kind of know. I know Nacht and Tag are night and day. And this is the Saxony Empire. Night and day in German. And he basically has two pets. So he has a white wolf and a black wolf. And you can guess which wolf is called night and which wolf is called day. And then each of these have their little, their abilities over here. So here's where they place their mechs at the start of the game. And as they deploy a mech, they get the ability that the mech reveals, and they can choose which one. Each one of them has a special ability, like this one. All of their workers can swim across any river. There's the starting information, the number of combat cards, and the starting power for that faction. Here are the player mats. The player mats I really love. They are basically they glued together two pieces of cardboard. You can't really see it here, so that there can be these recessed areas for sticking your different tokens. So your little upgrade cubes can go into these slots. Your workers go into here. Your mill goes here. Your mine goes here. Your monument goes here. Your armory goes here. At the bottom you have some more slots here available. And here's slots for the little enlistment token. The little enlistment, they're little cylinders. And then here for each of the player mats, there's your starting objectives, popularity, and how much coinage you got, how rich you are at the start of the game. And order of play is determined by this number. So whoever has the lowest number gets to start playing, and then it just goes clockwise from there. So like this player mat gets to go first. But they also have, the least objective cards, the lowest popularity, and the fewest amount of gold. And you can see as we move sort of up, they get better and better. And that just has to do with the fact that certain players get to go first, therefore, here's the other one. So here's number 2, which goes right in here in between those. So there's number 2 here. And the only difference between these is just, the top and bottom actions are mapped differently. So like in this case, you've got the produce action, top action on the bottom, you've got a deploy. But here you've got a trade as your top action, and the bottom is a deploy. And then over here is your top action for produce, but it's mapped to upgrade, and so on. They have these lovely Scythe logos on the back. Beautiful. These are basically shuffled like cards when handed out to the players before starting. And then we have this. That box is still very heavy because there is a book in there. We have each of our characters, their little avatars. Just pull one of these out to give you a good look at one of the avatars. Can't remember her name, but she's the one with the bird. The person with Gute and Nacht. It's interesting. He's only got the one wolf, but he technically has 2 wolves with him. Nacht and Tag, I mean. It's Gunther. And then there's the one with the tiger. This one here has the ox, which he's riding. Each of them comes with their own set of mechs. The mechs are actually pretty well secured in here. So here's one mech example. And each mech is different. So each faction has its own configuration of mechs. You can see these are a little different than these. Here's one with a bent gun barrel, but that's alright. We can fix that in hot water if we want to. And again, I've said before in other videos, I don't paint my miniatures, so I'm totally happy with unpainted miniatures. And to be honest, these look great as they are. I don't see why you would paint these necessarily, but I can understand people wanting to paint these, as long as they can preserve the faction color somewhere on them, probably the base, just leave the base that color, just like how these are done. So these miniatures are ripe for painting because they're just gray with the faction color in the base. We'll go ahead and tuck those away. We'll set those aside. We'll come back to what else we have in the box here. Isn't this lovely? They gave us a bag of bags for getting all of our components back together again in any fashion we wish. Lots and lots of Ziploc bags. Not that, I mean, these are cheap, but still, it's nice for them to provide those right in the box. We have our somewhat thick, but please don't be daunted by the size of the rulebook. I have a number of games like this where the rulebook is 30 plus pages and people are like, I'm not going to play that game, it's got way too many rules. Well, once you get into it, a lot of this is intuitive. Iconography really plays a part in the game, very much like Eclipse. I kind of think of this as like a different version, kind of like Eclipse. It's an area control game, but I wouldn't call it a 4X game because you're not really exploring. You've already explored. Everybody knows what everything looks like and where everything is and where the resources are. So you're not exploring in any way. And combat is actually not as common as you might think. Even though the combat rules for Scythe are very simple. If you're familiar with Eclipse, you know how complicated the combat rules for Eclipse are. And the combat rules for Scythe are really just pick some cards, pick a number on your power dial, add that up, that's your total, compare that to your opponent, and whoever's got the highest amount wins, and ties go to the attacker, not the defender. This is a quick reference guide. You can actually get this online as a PDF. Actually, all of these can be acquired online as a PDF. Jamey Stegmaier actually provides a site with all of these downloadable. This is an achievement sheet, which I probably wouldn't use. Maybe just make a copy of it, or like I said, just download the PDF and print it. This is the Scythe Automa rulebook. This describes the solo play with the 4 different difficulties. The 4 different difficulties start with automata, so like the first time you play with the Automa rules, you should consider playing with automata, which is easy. Automa is normal, and then there's 2 others. Here they are. They're described right here. So automata, Automa, Automazina, and then Ultimazina. Sort of like, this is like sort of like the nightmare setting on Doom. Oh, and before we even get to the bottom, we get to the book. So this is the book that makes the Art Connoisseur edition different from the regular collector's edition. And the artwork, all of the artwork in the game is by this individual whose name I will butcher. I know his first name is Jakub, but I cannot pronounce that. If I took a stab at it, I would say it's Rosalski, but Polish has some interesting rules for pronunciation. I'm just going to kind of thumb through this. Look at that mech. That's some wicked artwork. That mech sitting there amongst some reindeer. And this one, in case, is a kind of a rogue mech just wandering. But just beautiful, beautiful artwork across the board. Some of this artwork can be found on the cards. Some of this is just extra artwork. You see some, obviously there's some artwork on the left side of the guide here. There's one of our characters. This is Princess Sarah with her eagle named Kar of the Crimean Khanate. And then there's sort of some backstory for her. It's all kind of laid out in the art book. Some really nice stuff in here. Beautiful, beautiful imagery. Beautiful book. going on my coffee table. Stegmaier Games, of course, has come out with previous games. This is their most hyped one. Here's the old silica gel to prevent things from getting too humid in here. Take up all that moisture. Here are the 4 containers, the plastic containers that come with the collector's edition. I believe the premium, or maybe the special edition, comes with 2. I can't remember at what point it graduates to 4. It might be the collector's edition that graduates to 4, but there's a little SM on there for Stegmaier Games. Also really useful for playing the game as well as storing components. So these could be used for storing each of the 4 resources. And when you open them up, you get 2 containers for the price of 1 for play, and then for storage you just do that. And we have our punch out sheets here. Here are the regular cardboard coin tokens, so you get those too. You don't get the plastic versions of or the wood versions of the resources. But the rest of the stuff, like the encounter tokens, there should be 11 of those. Actually, there's 12 here, but I think there's only 11 spaces. And then you have your structure bonus tiles. There are 6 of those. You pick one of those at random and you put it out, and it adds to the goals for the game. And then you have the multipliers. So the multipliers are useful when you have too much of a resource that you ran out of resource tokens. So here's like +3 grain, +3 metal, +3 wood, +3 oil. And finally the board. I am not going to open up this whole board. There's actually 2 boards in here. So one of these boards is only used when you are going to use the full-size super giant board, which gives you larger hexes, more space to keep things in. If you feel like the smaller size board crams things up, but the smaller size board in and of itself is monstrous. So let's just show smaller size board here. But there it is. Look at this. This board is massive. Huge, huge board. And this is just the regular size board. So, like I said, if you flip it over, you actually get two-thirds of the big board. And of course the hexes are larger. There's plenty of extra space for everything. Just monstrous, huge, huge board. I actually kind of want to play with the big one. I do have a big enough table to hold it, so it would give people more space to, for cases where you've got so many resources and workers, and you've got maybe a mech and your character are all in a particular hex and they're starting to spill over. You can switch over to the big board and use it instead. So that's it. That's everything that's in the Art Connoisseur Collector's Edition of Scythe. I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of speechless that I finally have this thing. And again, a shout out to Noble Knight Games. They had one available for me to purchase. I don't live in Wisconsin, so I can't go to their brick and mortar location. But yeah, you can just go to nobleknightgames.com and you can find all sorts of stuff. Here's all those components. And of course, promo cards are included. So right here, where it explains that the promo content and the stretch goals are provided in the above list. And this is promo and stretch goals from the Kickstarter. The original Kickstarter for the game, which unfortunately I didn't participate in. So I'm sort of taking advantage of this after the fact and acquiring my own Art Connoisseur Collector's Edition. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing. I know this is the umpteenth unboxing video that's been posted to YouTube, but I felt like I'd do one of my own anyway, just for kicks. Maybe eventually all 3,430 Art Connoisseur Collector's Edition boxes will be unboxed and posted to YouTube. Again, if you enjoyed my videos, including my unboxing videos, feel free to subscribe to my channel. If you do, you should receive notifications when I post new videos. And of course, I also do playthroughs of different games. My next one is probably going to be Firefly, the Legendary Encounters Firefly card game. I'm still trying to wrap up Darkest Night before I move on to that. And then I'm going to do, at some point, I will do a solo, the Automata playthrough of Scythe. And feel free to like and share if you enjoyed this video. And until next time, this is Wild One signing off.